This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 179 of the Stable Scoop Radio Show, the Carriage horse industry in New York. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible.
Equestrian Collections offers the whole universe of shopping at your fingertips at a price you can afford at equestriancollections.com. Plus, Kentucky Performance Products, scientifically proven supplements for your horse, and you can find them all at kppusa.com.
Welcome to the Stable Scoop, with weekly shows delivered right to you. With Helena and Glenn the Geek, live from the stable, it's every week. They'll bring you the news through hail or high water, while using their tails as their own fly swatters. So sit on down and laugh till you poop, cause it's time again for Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop.
This is Glenn the Geek.
And this is Helena B., and you're listening to the Stable Scoop Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network.
Oh my God, Helena! This morning I posted a video, and I wanted to see if you saw it. It was of a pleasure class at a driving show, and we'll post it on our Stable Scoop page. I don't know, I might have put it there already, but we'll make sure it's there so people can go check it out. Just go to Facebook and search Stable Scoop. Of this driving show where this horse, it was an Arab class, where this horse just gets out of control, dumps the driver off the back of the cart, and then goes berserk, running into other horses, and just the thing went on forever. And then another horse gets loose, and when he slammed into that other horse at full speed. Were you shocked?
First of all, what a mess. I had to repost it on my Facebook page, and I called it a mouth dropper because I couldn't react because there was so many things to react to. You know, one horse obviously freaks out pulling a carriage, and what do you call that kind of carriage?
That was just a cart.
It was just a cart.
Two-wheel cart.
It was small.
Like
it wasn't
sulkies.
anything.
Yeah,
like sulkies. Okay, so you're like, all right, fine, something's going to happen. It was so like light and airy that you figured the tack will break, something, you know, the leather's going to give way, whatever, and the horse will just
stop,
canter it out or stop. Well, first of all, it looks like they're Arabians.
Yeah, they are.
And, you know, they can just keep going and going and going. But then it's like one crash happens, and then somebody plants themselves in front of a crazy horse and gets run over. You're like, what?
Yeah, they took him out in an ambulance. I mean... there was many mistakes.
That's what I call.
So many mistakes. I mean, this horse
evolution.
is loose going around the edge of the ring. By the way, which is what they're taught to do in these classes. Stay at the edge of the ring. And when you're at the edge of the ring, you don't stop. So they're taught they don't stop when they're going around the edge. And this horse is going. He finally lost the carriage. The carriage became unglued from the harness. But then he was running around with this loose harness all over his body. And, you know, and he just was not stopping. Now, Then everybody that was in the ring, well, the way they do those shows is the judges stand and all the stuff is set up in the middle of the ring with a fence around it. Well, he kept heading for that, and the other carriages that were in the ring did go to the middle of the ring and stop and get to the horse's head. So they did probably the right thing, although I question why they weren't leaving while the horse was at the other end of the ring. But maybe there was just no time for that. But then all of these people...
Well, you also don't know how long it's going to last.
Right.
You know, you go to the ring and settle down, because sometimes the simple act of leaving the ring could actually get the horse more excited. You know, if everybody starts leaving, then now you've created...
This one was not quitting. This video went on for 6 minutes. I mean,
but the thing is it did go on for 6 minutes, but then he stopped... Right?
They finally got that other horse.
He crashed into the other horse, and the other horse takes off.
Did the same thing.
And goes for another 6 minutes. But the worst of it is, to me, I'm watching the horses, and I'm like, you know what they're going to do. They're going to go until they get tired. And they may go until they kill themselves. But they're going to go until they will settle. They will slow down. But
it's an Arab. They could go 100 miles like that.
But the people kept trying to get involved and like get in the way and grab tack or something, and that just made it worse. And it also changed the horse's course of direction, which drove them into those that were standing quietly in the center of the ring.
Yeah, a lot of the comments I saw were they should have just, they should have all stood around that white picket fence area where the judges are in the middle and just kept the horse away from that. Yelled and screamed and done whatever they had to keep the horse away from that and keep him going around the outside edge. But you know what? All of that's in hindsight. And to be honest, I have never seen anything like this before. And I'm sure they hadn't either. This horse wasn't scared to... This horse had no self-preservation at that point. He was just... The way he was running into other things, he had no self-preservation at that point.
well, yeah. His self-preservation comes out of a different book than ours does. I think he had a plan, but it just wasn't in our playbook. It was cool. And you know what I thought was helpful about this is you watch it and it gets you thinking, well, what would I do? And that's why I liked the way Coach Jen put it out there is, what would you do? And it just starts you thinking about your own emergency planning, and look, making sure you check in with somebody, your trainer, your instructor, yourself, your students, say, what do we do in an emergency situation so that we don't get ourselves run over by an Arabian pulling a cart?
Now, I've told this story before, but Jennifer was driving an Arabian we had that was a complete screw loose horse. It was one. The conversation we had last week about hot horses doesn't even remotely describe this Arab.
This is not. These are not. There's a difference between hot horses and
screw loose. Yeah, this one was just a screw loose. I mean, we never did get it to any point where you could do anything with it. But this horse actually ran through a 3-board fence when Jennifer was trying to drive it around the arena and broke the rails. Shows you how, no horses just don't do that. They keep running into it. So she finally fell off, and I was actually in the bathroom sitting on the toilet, of all things, embarrassing. And there was a window right there, and I look out the window, and there's the horse and carriage running through every electric fence in the farm without Jennifer attached. The cart was still attached, what was left of it at that point. And this horse is just running through every electric fence in the farm. And I don't see Jennifer. I'm on the toilet when all this is happening. So it's like, okay, I guess I better change my plan for the moment and head outside and see where this horse is going and where my wife is. Because at that point, this horse actually rammed that 3-board fence so many times it broke all the rails till it got out. It just was just a screw loose. It would be fine 1 minute, and it would be when the horses we talk about this, when horses have no self-preservation instinct, when they don't care if they hurt themselves, is when they're truly dangerous.
Yes, it happens. There's times even when your backyard horse gets like that, or your school horse gets like, you can see that change in their eyes, and there are things that you can do. I would say there are things that you can do to help diffuse it. But then there are times where you need to say, I need to get out of here.
Yeah, when
I need to just back out.
When it runs through a 3-board fence, that was an indication that it was probably beyond what we could do with this horse. So we ended up selling the horse to somebody who was going to try and work with it more, that understood more about those types of horses than we did. Because, but that's my funny story of the day. The horse was fine. Jennifer was fine. Everybody was fine. I was embarrassed because I have to tell that story now because I can't resist. So
it's funny. You cackle. You always make me cackle on these shows. I feel bad for our listeners because they must think like, I don't know, I'm some kind of harpy hanging around a cauldron. But you always get the cackle out of me.
All right. Well, we're gonna disagree a little today, aren't we?
We are. We have Carly Knudsen, who's on with us today from NYClass, which is nyclass.org. And it's an acronym. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you what it is. But essentially, it's New Yorkers for Cleaner Living and Safe Solutions. They're looking to replace carriage horses in Manhattan with these really adorable vintage turn-of-the-century electric cars. And so I thought that this was a really nice way to address a very specific problem with an equally specific solution. They're not trying to change the world. They're just trying to change this one particular problem. So Carly's going to join us today and talk about NYClass's efforts.
And you and I disagree a little bit about this, and we'll get into this when she's on the air. But, we'll talk about it. You and I don't disagree on a whole lot of things in the horse world, but this is one we disagree on a little bit. So we thought we'd have this conversation and get both sides of it out there and let the listeners decide. how they feel about it. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about equestrian collections. I'm happy to announce that, and I haven't even told you this yet, I'm happy to announce that Equestrian Collections has renewed their sponsorship for another year here at the Stable Scoop Radio Show. So we want to thank Chris and the gang over there. We're going to see her next week as we head off to Ada. We're going to chat a little bit we're going to change it up a little bit, and we're hopefully going to be bringing you some interesting segments from Equestrian Collections. We're trying to put something very interesting together, and I'm going to discuss the details with Chris at Equestrian Collections next week. So we're going to have some more fun and excitement coming down the pike, and something a little bit different for you here on the Stable Scoop Show as we go through 2012. And we just want to take this opportunity to thank Equestrian Collections for their continued support of the Stable Scoop Radio Show. I'm trying to talk to.
I was just shopping on their site the other day, like 2 days ago. I was looking for jods for Gracie.
That's probably why she's renewed, because she saw you shopping.
Oh, no, I'm sneaky. I go under the radar. I do that anonymous browsing so nobody knows. I'm like the secret shopper.
So we appreciate their support, and we're going to be having more news from you from the world of Equestrian Collections over the year 2012, because they have some exciting things going on over there, too. Well, let's get to our guest and talk about whether we should have carriage horses in New York City.
Welcome, Carly. Thank you so much for joining us on Stable Scoop. I know this is sort of a serious topic. I don't want to say sort of. It is a serious topic, but Glenn and I have to take a tongue-in-cheek look at everything that goes on in the horse world. And I want to talk about the underlying problem and then the solution to carriage horses in New York City. I think the solution that New York Class has come up with is fantastic. And I think everybody, I like the fact that your organization is not just, screaming and shouting that something is wrong. You're actually working to do something to change it in a positive way. So again, thanks for coming on the show, and let's talk about why we're here.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Well, NYCLASS is an animal advocacy organization here in New York that, as you said, has what we believe to be a viable alternative to the current horse-drawn carriage industry. We really come from a place where we feel as though it's not safe for these horses to be working on the streets in the conditions that they're working under. We do recognize here at NYCLASS that this is an industry that provides jobs and is a tourism draw for the city, which is where our idea for a replacement was really born from, to come at this as a way to find a solution that can save the tourism and save the jobs and also get the horses off the rather dangerous streets of New York City.
I mean, I grew up not too far from New York City, so I know how dangerous those streets are to pedestrians, let alone to animals. I remember Claremont back in the day. I'm also not a fan of, when you step out into the street and Ringling Brothers is in town and they're marching their elephants down the street and you see their tigers and things in cages, and just seeing any kind of large animal in an urban environment is, you just know something is not right. You bring it to New York City and then you can ratchet that up a couple of degrees. So what exactly is wrong with the carriage industry in New York, in your opinion?
There's definitely a few factors that feed into what has led NYCLASS to our proposed solution. And really, as this last summer has shown with a number of incidents of horses being spooked, we're beginning to understand, and many more people are beginning to realize that this is not safe. We're mixing large fight animals in a very busy, dense, fast-paced, and loud, sort of frantic environment. And it's becoming much more clear to the general population by way of not only our work, but other people stepping up on our behalf, such as Leah Michelle and other well-known names, really drawing attention to the fact that this is dangerous for these horses, and then to extend that out to the carriage drivers as well as the passengers in those carriages. Anytime you mix a flight animal with loud urban environment, we feel like that's really asking for a possible problem. And then, these horses are working very long days, 9 hours a day, in this environment that is not natural for them, and then they're going back to stalls that we know don't provide them with daily pasture time or paddock turnout, really, and their stalls tend to be on the smaller side, not as comfortable as one would feel should be appropriate for horses that are working so hard throughout their days.
Can I ask a question about, and I think that a lot of people don't know this answer either, are these all, is there a ton of different carriage companies? Is it one guy and a horse? Is it one carriage company that does them all? How does that work?
Sure. So there's 68 carriages. The carriages are medallioned just like the New York City taxis are. So they're independent contractors. There's a mix within the industry where you'll have drivers. There's over 200 drivers, 213 horses, and then the 68 carriages. Those horses are owned by or housed in 4 different stables with a larger number of drivers and then owners. So you can be an owner and not drive, or be a driver owner, or you can be a contracted driver driving those carriages. Does that make sense?
I don't know about Helena, but this is a little different than I thought. I thought, we probably had 2 or 3 carriage companies that were operating, 40 horses each. So this complicates the matter. I'm not a big proponent of throwing all the apples out of the bushel when there's a few bad ones. But I can see what you're up against now here a little bit clearer. If you have 4 carriage companies and one of them is mistreating horses and their horses are dying in the streets, that's one thing. But when you have 68 different ones, that creates its own set of problems to begin with.
Well, regulation becomes a problem, and I think that's not just in New York City. That's throughout anything in the animal world where you have beasts of burden. We're not saying, let's not put our animals to work. I mean, for heaven's sake, every time I sit on my horse's back, the poor guy sighs. Oh, damn, I got to work again. Right. It's not like they can't work, but you need to regulate all of these people whose priority is not the animal's best interest, it's the bottom line. And we all know that when you put those two things...
I disagree with that statement. I don't think you can blanketly say that all 68 of those are the animal is not the best interest, because I bet you're going to find some of those in there that are good horse people that like their horses a lot and they're well cared for. Am I wrong about that?
You're right. No, you're right.
Well, this is exactly the debate that has been going on in the city for years, and that many organizations have been working really hard to try to figure out what is that proper balance, and can we regulate this enough to ensure that all the horses are being treated properly. And really, NICLAS and our mission and our replacement has come and grown out of sort of hands tied, right? It seems as though we've done what we can regulation-wise, and we're still seeing that it's not enough. And so we really feel like with our electric vehicles that there is many more added benefits to this change than currently are right now in the industry. And I want to actually give your listeners our email address, our website, which is nyclass.org, nyclass.org. We have a bunch of information up there about what we're doing and where we are. We're about to kick off a fundraising effort to build our prototype so we can actually put one of our antique replica electric cars on the road and prove its economic viability. We're really confident.
I want to be the first one to ride in it.
Wait, here we disagree. Helena and I disagree on this one, too. I have no interest in that whatsoever. I think there's a certain romance in taking a carriage ride, because it is not something that any of these people get to do ever. You get to ride in a car all the time. I don't care if it looks like an antique car. That I have no interest in doing that, because it's just another car I'm sitting in. Whereas the romance is being pulled by the horse. Don't you think that which, by the way, has been in New York City forever?
Well, but the medallions, the way that the industry is set up is actually not as old. Horses have been in the city as working and as modes of transportation.
Well, yeah, back to before cars. Yeah.
But, what we've found in our market research is that people, and tourists particularly, are actually really excited by this idea as a new way to look get a view of the city, because one of the benefits of this is that these rides would be able to go beyond just Central Park, and that opens up a whole new market for these drivers to really make more money. So we're not talking about just limiting these rides to the park as they are now, and then there are some areas south of the park into this, throughout the city that they can go during certain times. This is really blowing this whole industry wide open with this car, because although they'll go only 5 miles an hour at a very safe speed within the park, outside of the park, they'll be able to keep up with city traffic. So we really are finding that it's actually quite exciting to many tourists. And
it looks exciting to me. I mean, it's everything that a horse and carriage is without the horse. I mean, it's got the open space, it's got the canopy. I mean, these are like turn of the century vehicles, so that there's a space for you to cozy up with somebody you love.
You just said it, Helena, and maybe it's just because I'm a horse person. It's without the horse.
Yeah, we don't want the horse. That's the whole point.
Which is the thing that makes that a romantic thing to do. And Jennifer and I have done carriage rides in cities before, not New York City because we don't go there much, but we've done them and with perfectly healthy, fine horses. So I don't see the romance.
It's tough for me because I really feel like being someone that loves horses, I can't stand seeing them in these conditions. I feel as though any minute something could happen that can cause one of these guys to, spook or take off, or God forbid, get hit by a vehicle, which we've seen.
Okay.
And I think
I can make that argument for any horse anywhere.
But you know what? But it's not 9 hours worth of it. It's not 9 hours worth of it. There's not diesel fumes. There is not the abrasive. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about Tennessee walkers and some show environments.
Well, we can talk about any horse anywhere can get out and get hit by a car. I mean, that's.
But it's not just about getting hit by a car. It's about being exposed to stresses so consistently and so long term that, you just go into New York City. I'm in there, a couple of times a year. They're sway backed. I mean, these horses are plucked out of, yes, some people say, they're pulled off of the trucks. They're, retired Amish horses or whatever. Mm-hmm. But we're not talking healthy cream of the crop horses here. These horses are put into this career from something else because they were either too sick or not able to function in that prior career. But you look at their shoes; their feet are long. They're whoever they're using for farriers, they're not. They're swayed backed. Their coats are unhealthy. Yes. Do you see once in a while a good one?
Are you saying that
and
about
then
every
also
horse,
to add to,
or a certain number of the horses?
I would say now. You imagine my sampling is small because I'm not there all the time. Right. But out of my sampling, most of the ones I've seen, I've said, "Oh my God, somebody's got to get in there." I don't.
We have a rescue carriage horse,
and you could be.
My class has a.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say,
my class.
I've driven, we've had people on who run carriage companies in smaller towns, and obviously they don't have the same problems that a New York City is going to have. When you're in the South, in Dixieland, in the middle of a city is a little different than being in New York City.
Very different, not a little different, very different.
Yeah. So I
and
give you that.
And then also at the end of these guys at the end of the work life of these horses, we know a great number of them are not being retired to farms or sanctuaries. They're being auctioned for slaughter.
I got to tell you though, that's not you're not exclusive in that one.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But as a part of our solution here, at NICLASS, and again, our website at niclass.org, or you can find us on Facebook at Facebook/Stop Horse Abuse. We talk a lot about how we've got some great partnerships set up that can save these 200 plus horses that are currently working in this industry and stop New York City as being a contributor to horses being sent to slaughter.
So what are the objections? Obviously, I read, and I know the New York Times has had articles about you guys that have not been favorable at times, because I read a couple of them. And they really pick on, is it Ed Sayers, the president of the ASPCA, who was partly responsible for starting your organization? Is that correct?
Yeah. Mr. Sayers is a co-founder of NICLASS.
And so the New York Times has not always been favorable. And I know the mayor, from what I read, is opposed to getting rid of the horses. So what is the argument on the other side? Why are you having trouble getting this through?
I think many of the points that you touched upon earlier is that this has been something that has been a part of New York City's history for so long, and it's a big change. We're asking people to reimagine something, and we understand that it takes a lot of time, but we're extremely excited about 2012 because we've seen a huge groundswell of support in the last year. I mean, we've gone the last 6 months, we have over 70,000 petition signatures. We've got a great live thermometer on our website that you can follow and see. I mean, we're gaining hundreds of petition signatures a day from New York and also from across the world of people who are really starting to realize that some of those old arguments don't hold as much water anymore when we're continuing to see instances of these horses taking off and being spooked or collapsing. And really, our solution, we're confident that it addresses the main concerns which have been expressed by the naysayers, if you will, which is the jobs and the tourism draw. And as we talked about, our market research shows that people are willing to take these rides. We have designed the cars such that they can carry more passengers than the carriages do, which provides an opportunity for increased revenue for the drivers by being able to charge per head, which our market surveys show people are willing to pay more per head for rides in the cars than they are in the carriages right now.
Okay, so here's a question. Would the folks who are introducing the electric cars work with the current carriage companies perhaps in transitioning? Let's say, okay, we're going to...
The 68 medallions that are currently on the backs of those carriages would be the first medallions to go on the cars that we roll out.
Awesome.
The main objective is to keep the jobs. We're actually looking at growing the jobs because these cars will be manufactured here in New York City. And then from that point, you know, we really feel like that in and of itself is a strong message to the drivers. We are not trying to put this industry out of business. We're trying to transform this industry into one that's safer for not only the horses, but the people that take these rides. My goodness, the people that work these rides, we know that a driver was in a coma for a number of months after an accident this summer. It's horrifying and devastating for a family. These cars are safe. They're going to comply with all government safety regulations. They'll be registered with the Department of Motor Vehicles. Drivers would have to have driver's licenses, which is not 100% the case now.
Okay.
I mean, from a horse husband's point of view, I would like not cleaning up the stall all the time.
You don't have to clean up the poop.
I mean...
But, you know, one of the big arguments here, though, is that, you know, like you keep saying, Glenn, you don't want to throw all the apples out. Again, a lot of the naysayers, Carly, say that, you know, that NYCLASS and other organizations like you are radical and that you want to just get rid of all animals in any kind of work. And, you know, it's just unrealistic to think that we're going to take, you know, all the horses and nobody's ever going to do anything. We're not going to show them. We're not going to ride them. We're not going to put them to work for us. I can't say that that's a realistic expectation.
To be fair, though, Helena, we have been attacked that way. I mean, the industry has, you know, PETA is trying to do that now.
But that's PETA's job, and it, you know, and NYCLASS's job is not to say, is not to legislate what we should do with animals across the board. They're to say,
correct,
let's just get them out of New York City because New York City is a very unique environment. It is extremely abrasive. It's abrasive for humans,
okay, so
let alone a flight animal.
I'm not trying to be antagonistic here. I'm just trying to also cover, you know, our listeners are horse people, so a lot of them
you got me all jacked up now.
I know, but our listeners are horse people, and half agree with me, half agree with Helena. So, you know, we have half and half here. So my question is, if that's the argument that horses are bad in cities, should we also get rid of the police horses in cities?
Our position is focused primarily and specifically on the carriage horse industry in New York City and these 220 horses. The police horses, they have... their work hours are less, their care is greater, they have guaranteed retirement, their training period is longer. We've seen that is a different situation in the way that the horses are geared up for work too. So, you know, you're talking about one rider on one horse's back as opposed to pulling a very large carriage, which when a horse takes off, can kind of also have a bit of a mind of its own. That's really a separate issue than what NICLAS is focused on.
Well, I'm glad
and
to
there's
hear
a different
that
dynamic because you've got the rider, in this case a New York City police officer, whose life is dependent on that animal's health, well-being, and training. That's not to say that carriage horses are don't carry that same responsibility, but what you have now is the New York City Police Department, who creates this microcosm, this capsule within New York of a good place for the horse to live. So it's a little bit like comparing apple. I see what you're saying, Glenn. But
and it will happen, by the way. When this goes away, it may not be your group, but there will be the next group who wants to get the police horses out of the city for whatever reason.
And there's many different groups and organizations on the animal advocacy, or what umbrella term you want to put it. There's many organizations that have their own goals and their own thoughts for how it should be. And really, at NICLAS, this is our issue. We want to take care of these horses that are on the streets right now, make sure that they're given permanent, loving, forever homes, transform the industry to save the jobs and protect the tourism, and really reimagine what this industry could be.
I love draft horses, so if you
future.
could send me one of the Percherons, a big black one, that'd be great. 'Cause I would want one.
No, Glenn, you could do, like, if you took them and maybe did a little carriage driving out there in the country, that's fine. Little grass,
And
under Jennifer's care.
We've had people on the shows that do carriage drives, for weddings and things like that. But you're right, there is a difference. These are backyard pets that they're taking out once a week.
Right.
To drive, maybe in a city, not New York City, but, a smaller town or city. But they're not out there every day. That is correct. Right. And we took a tour and I don't want to steal your time here, but we were just out in California and got a really exclusive tour that nobody gets to take of the barns at Disneyland. And they use the horses to haul. Horses really don't do a lot of work. They're there for show to haul the trolleys down Main Street. The trolleys do most of the work. But, those were the best, taken care of horses that I've ever seen in my life. And they're in a loud, environment, controlled loud environment. So it's a little bit different. So you're not saying carriage horses in every city needs to go. You're just saying it doesn't work for New York City.
Goodness, no, absolutely. That's really, we are talking a very unique situation here in this city.
Savannah, Georgia, you take the carriages out of there, and it's so beautiful and so quiet in the area where the carriages are. It's almost like they belong in Savannah, Georgia.
There are places where, again, you see it. You know it when you see it. When honestly, Glenn, I try to take the middle of the road and everything. But when you walk into New York City and you see one of these horses, with their stifle locked, trying to take a nap in a gutter, it's wrong. And it's not even the horrors of what you see in the videos when a horse goes down. There's no denying that. But there's an equally horrific condition. It's just more subtle when you're standing there watching them trying to recharge their own batteries, and it's just they can't because New York City is going on around them. It's extremely frustrating when horses. It's like trying to catch air, trying to catch a breath in a room full of smoke. And
where they're housed is no quieter. They walk through the tunnel traffic on their way to work. It's not as though it's a relaxed, peaceful walk to their working. I mean, they, from the moment that they awake to the moment that they go to sleep, they're working, regardless of whether or not there's passengers in their carriage.
All right. Well, we have to call it a day here. We'll let the listeners decide. And I'm glad that we got to have this discussion, though, so that we could present both sides. And what was the website again?
We have two. We've got nyclass.org, which is NYCLASS.org, or the easier one to remember is stophorseabuse.com, which is where listeners can go to sign our petition. We also are on Facebook at Stop Horse Abuse, and we are on Twitter as well at Abused NYC Horse.
And we'll put all of these links at the Stable Scoop website and on our show notes, so you'll be able to access the NICLAS information very easily. And one last question before we let you go, Carly. When do we think these electric cars will be ready to launch?
That's a great question. So as I mentioned briefly, we are kicking off a fundraising effort to build the prototype. So if you're interested in watching that come to fruition, that's going to be all up on our Facebook page. We'll show pictures as the car is being put together. Once we have that one car on the road, we'll go through a trial period to make any adjustments to that to prove the viability of the car, and we should have that on the road by winter of next year or so. And then from that point, we can begin moving forward with the rollout of the 68 cars.
And I do believe that once that's going to help your cause, because I think that the only reason everything revolves around money. So these drivers do not believe that they can make as much money with cars as they do horses, and you're just going to have to prove them wrong there. And then they'll all be glad to not shovel poop anymore.
We look forward to that.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be proof in the pudding to convince them.
I, for one, will be very happy to get in one of these cars, and I will tell everybody I know. And I don't know, it looks really charming to me, Glenn. I think it could be very romantic.
Okay, we'll see.
Glenn, I challenge you to come out to New York City when we've got the prototype on the road and come take a ride. We'll have
we'll all do it.
Come take a ride.
We'll come take a ride.
I'll go down to see Warhorse on Broadway in a car.
That'd be great.
Thank you so much.
We're going to be going to see Leap of Faith. Thanks again, Carly. We appreciate you being on with us. So, Glenn, it sounds like you were kind of coming over to the dark side a little bit there. I think
I don't want to ride in a car.
I know your issue is passing legislation that's any kind of sweeping legislation, and I understand that. But I bet that if you, Jen, me, and Peter go for a really nice electric vintage car ride in Manhattan on a cool spring day, evening, whatever, I bet you will love it.
See, and I guess part of that is too. We would probably like to do anything with you in New York City.
That's true.
I want to do the double-decker bus ride with the open top. I don't care. We always do when we go to cities. Our favorite thing is not the carriage ride. Actually, I'm sorry to say, it's the duck boat tours. I love the duck boat tours.
Oh gosh, it will come to Boston.
We did it, and they take you out in the water. It's so cool.
Those are fun.
And we've done them.
And no ducks are harmed.
Cincinnati, we did the duck boat tour, and they're funny, and they're just fun. They're just fun tours. I recommend the duck boat tours wherever you go. They're
animal free. They're animal friendly.
That's right. You probably bring your dog, they wouldn't care. So the electric car thing, I don't really care. I have my opinion about electric cars. People forget that we make electricity out of coal in this country, so actually they're coal-fired cars. We forget where electricity comes from, so I think that, electric cars, I could take them or leave them. I think they're going to create more problems in the long run than they're worth. I don't think that's the ultimate solution either. Because
we need to do a show on that.
We don't have a good way to make electricity in this country, so, I just, that's a whole different topic we're not going to get into today. But I do have something fun. Let's lighten it up a little and talk about pretty horse drawings. How about that?
That sounds wonderful.
All right, let's enter our Tack and Habit segment right now. Well, we're going to get to Jennifer Maddock-Rowland, who is from England, and I hope she has a lovely accent. She has timelessequineart.com, and I saw a video that is a time-lapse video of her doing a complete drawing of an Arabian head, and it was so cool seeing this 5-minute time-lapse video of her doing this elaborate drawing of an Arabian face in pencil that I thought, I got to have her on because we've never talked about doing equine art as something you could do as a product. But there's a lot of artists out there that if you send them a picture, they'll do nice drawings of your horses. We have a couple of them here, and they're hung prominently because we love them. So we're going to get to Jennifer in just a minute from jolly old England. But first, I want to tell you about Kentucky Performance Products. I'm also happy to announce to you that I just got off the phone with Karen over at Kentucky Performance Products right before we did the show today, and she has again committed to her support of the Stable Scoop radio show for this year.
You know what? I'm really, really excited about that because I really like Kentucky Performance Products. I like their products. I like their company. And I'm pretty stoked about that.
Well, I wanted to encourage everybody to go take a listen to last week's Horses in the Morning show last Fridays. You'll see it on there. It's last week's show that we put out on Friday because I was at their offices of Kentucky Performance Products, and we did the show from there. And I got a tour of the warehouse and how everything operates, and they're a really cool company with some really neat people. We got to hear from a bunch of them, got to learn a lot in that show. So check it out. It was on last week's Horses in the Morning show last Friday at Kentucky Performance Products. They have some neat products. They have some new products we're going to be talking about, and we're going to try and bring you, they're going to be providing us with a little bit different content coming up in 2012 too. We're actually going to do some nutrition segments where we talk about the different vitamins and what they do and why the different vitamins are important to your horses. And we're going to try and get a little more educational and learn a little with Kentucky Performance Products help too, and really start to mix it up a little bit on Stable Scoop that way too. So we have a lot of exciting things coming that I'm just I'm so thrilled about for 2012. We're just getting a lot more interactive and a lot more support from our sponsors who know so much too about the different things that we do every day here. So I'm excited to announce that to the audience and to Helena too.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing of it, and I'm like I said, hey.
Good thing. KPPUSA.com. Now let's talk to Jennifer Maddock Rowland from England about timeless equine art. Well, hi, Jennifer, and thank you so much for joining us all the way from England. What part of England do you live in?
I'm in the south of England, a little place called Somerset, Devon, right on the border.
I love the accent, too, from the south of England. It's so wonderful.
It is. It's very rich.
Yes.
It's very deep, and it's got a lot of texture to it.
Yes. Not only is she a good artist, she sounds good, too.
Well, maybe because she's an artist, she has that depth to her voice. She's artistic and, like, do you saunter when you walk? I sort of imagine artists, English artists, and like English gardeners. I think they hop and skip when they walk, and then artists sort of saunter. But you're very talented. You're actually a very talented artist. Jennifer and Glenn and I are being silly because we're always silly. But tell us a little bit about the kind of art that you do and how you got into making such beautiful sketches.
Well, I've been drawing really ever since I was about 10. I was always doodling. And it just came, everything that I drew was horses. And I've got horses, and I wasn't really interested in anything else. And through my studies,
you were one of those kids.
Yeah, one of those. And I just seemed to, everything in my past just took me towards drawing. So I really just followed my lead, really.
Well, now you said what kind of horses were you in? Pony Club, or what'd you do with horses when you were younger and today?
Now I had a couple of ponies when I was growing up, but I never really did Pony Club or anything like that. I was a bit of a happy hacker, really. And then I found Arabians and went into a bit of endurance, followed my mother's lead there. And I still have Arabs now. And now, well, my boy's about 24 now, so we just have a quiet life, really, together.
That's why, Helena, we saw a lot of cute little Arabian noses on her website.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
Now,
yeah, they are my passion.
You did a video that caught my attention the other day, and we're going to post a link to that, too. You did a time-lapse video that I think took you about 8 hours, but you condensed it to about 5 minutes with some terrific music in it of you actually doing one of your sketches. And what gave you the idea to do that video?
I just thought it would be some really good sort of publicising if people could see something coming to life in front of them. And obviously I'd seen all these time lapses on the telly, when they do the nature films, and I thought, I wonder if I could do that. And it worked.
Well, it did work.
Surprise.
It was great. I watched the whole thing.
It was neat. Yeah. It is a little captivating. You're like, I'm watching somebody draw
Mainly
and I can't look
because I
away.
can't do that at all. So it impresses me when somebody can do anything like that.
And you don't have the patience to sit and somebody or learn how to do it because it's so time consuming. You need it instantly. So that was perfect for you.
Now we're doing this segment because we want to highlight the fact that you can, and there's lots of artists over here in the United States and in every country really, that you can get these drawings done. We've had 2 of them done for horses that we've had in the past, and we have them proudly hanging on the wall. It is such a cool way to commemorate a horse that's living or a horse that's deceased. Do you get a lot of people that come to you after their horse is no longer with us wanting to do it for that reason?
Yeah, I've had a couple. One recently is very tempted to come to me and have her pony drawn, but I think it's still quite raw for her, so she doesn't want it just yet. But yeah, a couple of people have had me draw their horses that they've lost sort of over the years.
It's just a cool way to have art that reflects your horse rather than just a picture. And you'll do it off a picture, right? All people have to do is submit to you a picture and you'll do the drawing from the picture?
Exactly, yeah.
Is there something you look
and
for?
People don't often...
Well,
Sorry.
I was just going to say, is it mostly headshots or can you do whole bodies or what do you look for?
Mostly headshots because you can get such a defined detail out of just a headshot.
I'm looking at the one picture you
if
did.
It's full body, then.
I'm looking at the one picture you
If it's
did
full
in the
body, then you
video
use it.
and the halter. I want to buy the halter so that
I know. I saw that one. I like that one too. That's
wearing
know.
an egg butt bit in that particular
Say
shot.
that 5 times fast. We're in an egg bucket.
So how long does it normally take you? Now, the time lapse was 8 hours, right?
12.
12 hours, okay. Is that
12
usually what it'll take to do a full-size drawing?
Yeah, anywhere between 12 and 24 hours, and I sort of do it in 4-hour sections.
Wow. And how did you do the time-lapse video, by the way? Did you film the whole thing and then get somebody to splice it together?
I did it myself.
Oh, congratulations.
I had... Thank you.
Yeah, he's a real geek, so you just totally impressed him.
Yeah, you did.
I had to have my video camera stuck to my drawing desk upside down to capture it, which was unique, I'm sure. But then there's this little nifty thing on the computer which just lets you speed them up and do the relevant bits and pieces.
I love the music, too. Didn't you like the music, Kalina?
You know what? I knew you were going to love the music. You're just like you like, what do you even call those? They're like fanfares.
Yeah,
you love fanfare music.
It was very royal music she put in there.
It works, though. It works a treat.
It did.
It really does. It adds to that draw. It pulls you into the whole experience. Now, what do you do other kinds of artwork besides sketches? Do you do, is it just black and white? Do you do color pencils? What other medium?
No, it's just sketches.
So you don't paint at all?
I don't do anything else.
Which are my favorite, my personal favorites. I absolutely, because they're just so natural. I think it's, I don't know, I'm no artist, but I think it's a nicer way you can get detail in there without it looking photographic. It's like, why have a painting done of your horse where it's photographic when you could just have a nice photograph taken? But when you have a sketch,
Absolutely.
it's more of an interpretation. I think you get more emotion in there.
You can get much more depth with it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than you can a painting like watercolor or something.
Yeah.
I
like it. Well, how can people find you and your work?
Well, I've obviously got my website, primusequineart.com, and I'm on Facebook as Primus Equine Art, and also on Twitter as TE Artist.
So that's timelessequineart.com, and you can see Jennifer's work there. And if they want to get a hold of you to actually get some work done?
But all my details are on my website.
On the website. Okay, so they can just find it there. Well, this is terrific. And if somebody from the United States wanted to get something done, you would do that as well?
Absolutely. I've got a couple of pieces in America and some in Calgary. So, yeah, it can go all over the place.
And you don't care.
There's our friends from Canada again.
Yeah.
They're always 2 steps ahead of us, Glenn.
And it doesn't have to be just Arabs. We'll say that. You could get your third.
No, any horse. And I do dogs as well.
Oh, your dogs are great. I saw some of the dogs on there. There was a lab on there that it was like the dog was sitting beside me. It was cool. Good job.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Good job. Well, thank you very much, Jennifer, for joining us all the way from England. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, Glenn, you've succeeded again. You've succeeded in finding a lovely British, Southern British young woman with a talent
With a lovely
to come on the show.
accent and a talent.
Yes. Yeah. She was sweet. She's talented. She's got her act together. She's got this lovely business. How do you do it? You just like reach out into the ethos.
No,
and
you know
pull
how I do it?
these women out of
Facebook. I saw that video on Facebook. Facebook is the most wonderful thing for finding talented people because if talent sort of rises to the top, doesn't it? And people, will highlight videos
does.
and things of people that are talented. So it's really cool that Facebook just gives us. When we first started the show, there was no Facebook. We really had to work to find our guests.
Isn't that funny? Wait. Back up.
Yeah,
When we first started, there was no Facebook.
I know. Isn't that funny? There wasn't.
And think of how much we use it now.
I know, and it's just how an outlet of where you find so much cool stuff.
I know.
That we could never find before. You followed certain websites, and that's where you found it. You went to the Chronicle, or you went to any of our many affiliate websites at Horse and Hound,
Thehorse.com.
and,
Yep.
things like that had it on. But it was much harder. Now your friends tell you about the cool stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it so neat. I want to do, before we wrap up here today, and I know this is a topic that you and I will both agree on, and I wanted to bring it up because a couple days ago, many of our listeners went onto the web and they tried to go to Facebook, or they went to Facebook, they went to Google, they went to Craigslist, they went to Wikipedia, and they found the sites all blacked out. Because of legislation called SOPA and PIPA that the Congress is trying to enact. And I went into it in great detail on the morning show. I won't bore you here with that. But I just want to say that, if you get a chance, look up SOPA and PIPA. Mashable.com did a very good story about why this is such horrible legislation for all of us that use the internet and all of us that make our livings on the internet. And basically, if you record a video and you put it up on YouTube, it affects you too. What they're trying to do is take out due process out of which we're entitled to, if I remember right, by the Constitution, aren't we? Due process in the law.
Well, yeah, but not this kind of due process.
Well, they're basically saying that they're giving the music companies, the video companies, the movie companies, the right to bypass the courts and go directly to your internet service provider and say, YouTube put up a video of a 5-year-old singing a song that's copyrighted. It needs to be taken down. But not only that, it extends to the place where the person who put that up can also be charged with a felony if it's viewed by more than 2,500 people.
Yeah, it's an attempt to preserve their revenue streams.
Yes,
it is.
But
yeah,
in a
it's backed by
draconian way. I mean, in a way that bypasses the courts. Right now, they have to go to court and get it proven, that this has been done. But right now, they just ask for it to be taken down, when it's not a blatant violator. And I'm all in favor of protecting rights, because we have content too.
Yes, we're content creators. We're not trying to listen to me. I'm not even on anybody's side in this. I just, yes, there are content creators. You don't want people pirating your material. And I think
this goes to the point, and this is what people don't understand. It goes to the point of making, like let's take the Chronicle forums. If somebody posted something on there that is not, or that is copyrighted, what would happen before is that the copyright holder would contact the Chronicle forums and say it's there. If the Chronicle forums didn't notice it, and say it's there, and they would remove it. Now what this legislation allows to do is the copyright holder go to the Chronicle forums host provider, their ISP, the people where they host their website, and they can ask the ISP to remove that website.
Remove the file, yeah.
No, not the whole file. The whole website can come down.
The whole website.
That's draconian. That's
it's
beyond
heavy-handed.
Because I could then say, I don't like Helena, and I don't like what she's putting up there. And she took a picture and used a picture that I had taken years ago, and I can go and I can file a complaint. Helena has no recourse, and the ISP is obligated then to take down your website without even notifying you. That's the other thing. There's no notification clause. So you could wake up one day and one of your websites is gone. So, and you have a lot of clients this could affect too, because you don't know exactly if every picture or every sound file that has a little piece of music in it, might be copyrighted or not. But then it becomes your responsibility to make sure for your clients that that's not the case. Under penalty of you lose your domain name, they actually confiscate your domain name. So it's very bad. It's just goes beyond.
And in that sense, yes, it denies one their right of due process because they're basically stealing they're taking your, it's like taking your home. It's like they're taking your professional business. Professional content by eminent domain. Now, I 100% disagree with that. I think one of the things I was listening to was a full discussion about this on NPR today, and I was listening to Tom Ashbrook, who is normally so level-headed. He got all heated up because one of the guests that they had on was actually an attorney who was representing what was supposed to be this nonprofit grassroots organization, when it really turned out that she was representing that like NBC networks and Time Media and all these,
and they're
these
all
big
in favor
companies.
of this because
it's their revenue streams that this legislation is trying to protect. And the other thing is, when you go and you look at the money that changes hands from these big lobbies, from these media lobbies, to our congressmen, and the congressmen have said, we really don't know much about the internet, but you know what? $90,000 in a donation to my campaign fund will get me to sign on the dotted line.
Wow, see, that's the problem too, is most of them don't even understand the legislation.
It's politics. It's pork belly politics at its worst. So
now, the chances of this going through now, there have been. From what I'm hearing now is the congressmen are getting thousands of calls. It's closing down the circuits. And thanks to the companies that took a chance and took their websites offline for a day, like Wikipedia and Craigslist, I'm sure got a lot of attention because, people were going, I can't sell
Wikipedia, I can't live without it.
Google, had it on their website. So it got some attention and got people calling. I don't think this is going to happen. Now, the administration says they do not support these bills, but who knows? When it comes to signing things like this, it all depends on how much dollars went into the contributions. I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat.
Well, it does sound a little GOP to me.
Well, I don't care whether you're Republican. Actually, there's members of Congress on both sides in this one. This one is so not. This one's down there. It doesn't matter.
This one's all about money. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It's
exactly.
true. It's all about money, and everybody's happy to put their hand out.
And I'll end with this. You and I have been in the internet since the beginning, since the mid-'90s, early '90s, when the internet first started, and we've been all about keeping the internet free of taxation, keeping the internet free, and keeping it a place for open expression. If this goes through, you're going to have content people. It's going to change the face of the internet because forums will go away because nobody's going to want to risk it. Even commenting on blogs, the blog holder then will be responsible for making sure that there's not copyrighted content that are put in comments. And with the larger blogs, when they get thousands of posts, that's hard. So they're not going to allow commenting. It takes that freedom of expression away. And again, it goes back to the conversation we had earlier. For a few people that have violated, and I'm talking a few, not many people I know pirate anything. So,
And there are easier ways to restrict piracy, to control piracy, than it is this type of sweeping legislation. And if you're going up there and you're blogging and you quote somebody, let's say, or you put let's say you put happy birthday, that's copyrighted. There are terms and phrases that we use. What if you use someone's name, like Britney Spears, whose name is actually copyrighted or trademarked? I don't know which it is.
Oh, great.
But
now you got us kicked off the internet.
Exactly. There you go. Now, that's not saying that it will go down to that level of granularity. However, it could. And there's always somebody out there who's willing to make a living off of taking something like this down to that level.
Well,
and that
who it is.
That could destroy me and you.
It's your competition. Who's going, I can get you off by just finding something. So,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Your competitors are your enforcers.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's enough of that. But I'll tell you what, if you look it up, you go to Mashable.com, you're going to see an article there, and they also have links to your congressman, who's supporting it, who's not. Get involved on this one. You listen to podcasts, you're affected by this because it affects us too. We're going to have to be very careful what we say and do, and we are now. We don't really.
We are. We're very.
Now.
I mean, that's like everything. There are some people who are very conscientious about not pirating other people's work, and it's going to hurt us as well as those who really don't care. So that's.
Yep. Again, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. What we talked about earlier. Yep.
Yep.
All right. Well, this has been a show.
Yeah. Phew. See, the best shows always come out of stuff we never plan.
That's right.
This
thank you,
was
Helena. I appreciate you putting this together today, and we hope everybody, will make up their minds on everything we talked about today. We're putting it out there. You decide.
Be sure to log on next Friday. We'll have another episode of we'll have another episode of something, but if I can't get the word stable scoop out, it might be we'll have another episode of poop. And, we will probably talk about
and
poop.
we really should try to get to see Warhorse to the play sometime together.
I had the opportunity this past week and I didn't go. I heard it was meh. Horse people so far too.
Oh, the movie I'm kind of so about. The play I heard is great. We have to go see the play.
Oh yeah. Well, I also found out that Leap of Faith is coming to Broadway in April, and that's when my brother-in-law's in.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it looks like it's going to be at the Schubert Theater. So we'll let you know when we're going.
Cool. All right, let us know because we haven't been in New York City in 20 years.
That'd be.
You know your way around, so we won't get lost or mugged.
Yeah. Well, lost maybe, but mugged, I don't know.
Thanks, Alina. See you next week.
Three, two, one. For real.
When you start. This is episode.
I know.
I could do that part today.
No, I was looking up at the show description for the website. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
This is Glenn the Geek.
And this is Helena B. And you're listening to the Stable Scoop Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network.
Well, howdy, Helena.
Howdy, Glenn. How you doing this week?
I'm doing good. And I just wanted to ask you, cut.
What?
Totally forgot what I was going to say. What do you want to talk about?
Oh,
You want to talk about that video?
How about that video?
Yeah,
that video.
Okay, good.
Okay, all right, ready?
So fun.